I'm going to try not to get into the territory of musical theater too much.
Yeah, okay.
Oh gosh. No, I want to, but I will definitely do that. Okay. Anyways, let's start.
Okay.
What goes into crafting the instruments that fill our world with music?
And you covered the holes, man. You did. You got the low G there as well.
Welcome to The Instrument Makers, a new YouTube series where we visit diverse instrument workshops,
Oh, this blade's not very sharp. That's very annoying.
explore the artistry and techniques of master craftsmen,
I'm going to credit this. It's David's upgrade.
and share the fascinating stories and insights we discover along the way.
We'll try it.
Welcome to an especially exciting episode of The Instrument Makers. Here in Seattle, we find Billy Miller, who has innovated a new and more convenient way of playing certain percussion instruments, which he created out of necessity when he was playing Broadway musicals as a percussionist. Playing in musicals as a musician has been a huge part of my career as well, and I absolutely adore musical theater. In fact, check out my other YouTube channel, Into the Hoods, where I have informative and fun deep dives into the music of musical theater. As a result, this was a challenging video to make because I was absolutely dying to hear nothing but theater anecdotes from this true Broadway veteran. Since Broadway, he has now turned his attention to creating and perfecting these practical instruments. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, check out my website, and to support the work that I do. Anyways, let's get rolling!
No dinner tonight!
I'm Billy Miller, and I designed this triangle machine called the Miller Machine. And this is my shop in the basement of my house. I've got one other room over there where I have all the pieces and parts of everything that I make and assemble and ship out. And this is where I spend most of my time sort of tinkering and making things. The original machine came about in 2001. It was my first Broadway show revival of Follies. And there was a passage in the book, the percussion book, where I needed to play a timpani roll, a snare drum roll, hit a triangle, and I didn't have enough time to pick up the beater. I didn't want to play it with the wooden end of the stick, and so I came up with the first machine, which I actually have. Do you want to see it?
I would love to see it later, yes.
Okay. The first machine, which was made out of parts I just found, pieces of wood, felt, some other things. I made about 10 of those. And then at that point, a friend of mine, Joe Moat, was like, this is a viable thing. You should really think about selling it. So I spent a few months kind of redesigning it. Same concept, but just making it sellable. And that's where I am now. So that iteration of it, I mean, it's changed through the years. I've changed, upgraded parts, changed parts, finessed parts to make it what it is. And but that was the start.
So tell me about this beautiful thing you have here.
So I've got 4 of the 5. The 5th one's over there, and I'll pull that out in a second.
Okay.
But so I've got the regular triangle machine. This is the original triangle machine. Oh, should I get you the original one?
Yes, please.
Okay, hang on one sec. Let me grab it.
This is the very first one you made.
Yeah, this is super basic.
Yeah.
Wood, felt. This was some latex tubing that I dipped in Plasti Dip, and just some grommets that I found and an eye bolt. The original arm was, this is a cymbal mount off of a bass drum, and this was the original arm, and that would sit here. And,
Gotcha.
But that, yeah. So yeah. I ended up making about 10 of those, and actually selling them to my friends.
I love it.
They're like, okay,
we need it.
You want to buy one? That became this version.
But even this one over here, very intuitive, and it's very similar to what I see here. Did this come to you already? You were just sitting there playing Follies, and you're like, this is what it should be.
Well, I wanted to hit the triangle with a beater, and I needed to figure out a way to mount a beater that you could hit it with whatever stick you had in your hand. So this is basically the same concept. It's changed a lot over the years. It's hard to tell how it's changed, but it's still basically the same thing. I've upgraded pretty much every part the way I install the knobs, the eye bolts, the suspension mount for the triangle, the beaters, the type of beater, but it's basically been that same concept. So this was the original machine. This one has a flame logo on it, which I love. So this is the original machine. Then I came up with the finger cymbal machine.
We can't move on to this one until we hear what they sound like.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm so excited. Oh,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, you can just you can play softer.
Mm-hmm.
You could adjust the position. So you have to hit, so there's a little bit more, the beater moves a little farther, so you can hit it harder.
And you were just using it for the occasional dings here and there.
Yeah.
Would you be able to use it for some of those rhythmic triangle parts
yeah,
too?
Yeah. I mean, you could play it.
There's no way to do rolls on it, is there?
Yeah, you can go.
Oh, that's nice. Okay. Yeah.
The action is fast enough to be able to do that. Yeah, so this is the finger cymbal machine, which was the same body for the finger cymbal. This one I've changed fairly recently, where the whole thing easily comes off, and you can replace it with another.
Oh, okay.
Like put a different finger cymbal or a crotale or whatever you want, and then adjust it. Like you could do it mid show or something.
Is there a reason why it's on an angle?
Well, that's because you want to be able to hit it. If the finger cymbal was flat, it does have a little bit of motion, so it would probably hit the beater. This just clears it, so when you hit it, you get a nice clean hit.
Gotcha.
And it doesn't double back on itself and hit the beater.
What's the difference between these two? Of course, besides this is an angle.
The angle. So the angle adjusts. So you can do the same angle, the same 90-degree angle.
Yeah.
This adjusts, and also the beater adjusts. It has some. So if you end up going at an angle,
what would be the benefit of different angles?
Well, it's the sound. Like when you're playing at the 90-degree, you're getting a more pure sort of straight signal sound. At the angle, you're getting more overtones and a sort of a fatter sound.
Okay.
And a lot of.
Can we hear the difference?
Yeah. Here's the 90. This is really good. I found for pit work because it really can cut through. And then when you get this one, you get a lot more overtones and what I think of as a bigger sound, a fatter sound. So it's the difference between this and this.
Oh yeah.
Do you hear that?
I hear that. Yeah.
What happens in that situation is, I mean, not so much, but the triangle begins to move.
Yeah.
The beauty of this is that it's being hung horizontally, so it's pretty secure, and you're also playing it at a completely different spot.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If I had the same triangle on all three, you'd be able to hear the differences. So a lot of my upgrades, come from a byproduct, come from people posing questions, or I'm trying to do this thing and I can't do it. I'm like, oh wow. Okay, that's, I'd never thought of that.
Does this lose any of the resonance by having two contact points?
Yeah, it does. Well, it's like anything. I mean, normally if you're holding a beater, ideally it would be great if the beater was floating in midair, right?
Yeah.
Because, if the triangle was floating in midair.
That's your next invention. You gotta create some triangle. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's always a little bit of dampening.
Could I give some of them a whirl?
Oh, yeah, sure. I don't know this guy. Let me see. I gotta readjust him a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. There you go. Playing it is an art form itself. You gotta hit it just right.
Yeah, because you can't really bury the beater.
Yeah.
You have to.
You gotta bounce it a bit.
You figured it out, right? You played this, and then you figured that out. Then you have to get a little bit of bounce there.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
A little better.
That's it. You got it. Yeah.
A bit, yeah.
Well, yeah, I was in New York for about 18 years and doing. I think I had 13 shows that were my own, were my own show, and then I subbed on an additional. Oh my gosh, I don't know, 35, 40 shows. It was exciting. It was fun. It was stressful. I enjoyed sort of all the different opportunities that were available.
Do you have a favorite show you've played?
People ask me that. You know, it's funny. Drowsy Chaperone, which not too many people know about, is an amazing, funny show.
Yes.
I'd say that show, if I could pick one show that I could play forever, I think it would be that one because the music was so fun and the show was really fun. I studied classical music. I went to Eastman, and after I finished there, I realized that I wanted to do more drum set. I didn't really want to go into the symphony field, the classical. I grew up in LA, went back to LA, spent some time at Musicians Institute, back when it was up on Hollywood Boulevard, doing, sort of all vocational drum set stuff, sort of switching gears. And then years later, I realized that the skills that I had, which was being able to do percussion, being able to do drums, and being a good sight reader, kind of all converged into doing theater stuff. Plus, I wanted a little more structure in my life. I didn't want to, I was doing a lot of club dates and weddings in LA, and that involved a lot of travel and like one hits. And it was appealing to me to think, I could just go to, have 8 shows a week and all the gear is there. Yeah. And I could just walk in and play the show and then go home.
Of course, but that's assuming you get your own show and also the show lasts.
Yes. Well, see, and that's an interesting point because I also kind of joke with friends of mine. I'm like, be careful what you ask for because you may end up with a long-running show, which I guess you have to have that temperament. I would not. I could not. So I enjoyed, let's say, like I did Fiddler. It lasted 2.5 years, and that was plenty. We were in New York. We were living in Hell's Kitchen in a small railroad apartment. I was making everything there until we had our first child, and then I couldn't have like metal shavings all over the kitchen floor. So I moved all my gear to my brother's house in Brooklyn, so I could keep making stuff there. But I was very limited in what I could do, what I could make. So it wasn't until we moved to Seattle. We've been here a little over 10 years. Where I could really kind of spread out, have this shop, this awesome shop. I did the original version, which I can show you later, and then the one I have now is it's pretty much the same as it's always been. There's just been some small adjustments over the years.
And actually, I had thought about this problem too. So I happened to find I don't know if you've seen this, the one-handed triangles.
Yes, Doug Hendricks. Yes,
is that Doug Hendricks?
I know Doug. No, it's a very ingenious design.
Yeah, yes. One-handed ding.
Yeah, and it's a biangle, right? It's not a full 3 sides. It's 2 sides. The triangle machine came first, and then I wanted to address, actually, for Roadshow. So in Roadshow, I had to play, I can't remember the part, but it was like I was playing a floor tom thing or something, and then I needed to hit a finger cymbal. And the same issue where I didn't have time to do that. And so that's where I came up with this new arm for a finger cymbal. So yes, that came out of necessity as well. So I had, and I was developing that while I was doing Roadshow. And then I have another sort of hybrid version of the one for triangle, another a little more robust version, and then I just came out with one for a block, cowbell, wood block kind of thing. So this is the latest one that I just sort of came out with. And like I mentioned before, it was sort of, I work on it a little bit, and then I kind of got stumped with the beater and the arm configuration, but I finally sort of figured it out. And so I have the curved arm So you can kind of like swivel everything around this, and you find kind of the optimum
I see.
spot for where it should go. But what I think is super cool is this beater. So I struggled with this for a long time. This is a really great beater for blocks. Has a really nice warm sound to it.
Yeah.
Not a lot of attack. And this is what I was trying to recreate. But the problem I realized was I was able to get this material and put it on a beater, but it just wasn't speaking the same. And what I realized was the motion when you're playing like this, you have
The instrument bounces
this
with
is
you.
yeah. That's just my I'm not holding it super tight. But the that's a good point though. That's a good point. It's sort of I have to think about that. Like a little spring or something.
Yeah.
See, this is where all the ideas come from. You say something like that, I'm like,
I thought what you were gonna say was that it makes the sound because it kind
no,
of bounces.
but that's
with
a
it.
good point. I like that. I'm gonna have to think about that. Could be this. I'm gonna credit this. This is
appreciate it.
David's upgrade. But what I was gonna say is that the motion of the beater is bigger, and so I realized that the motion of this beater is much smaller. How far it travels, right? It only travels like that far. But so what's cool here is this beater, it's a wood core, and then I had latex tubing. I had to have it custom made because it needed to be really thin. So what happens is when you play it soft, you get a soft sound. And when you hit it harder, it kind of cuts through the latex and gets to that ball, so you get a little more attack.
Okay. Yeah.
But that was kind of like where I was stumped for a while, but I finally came up with that.
These orchestrators
Yeah.
writing these seemingly impossible parts.
Yeah.
What's happening here?
I know. Well, it's funny you say that because there was an orchestrator that I was working with at Encores, and I would always joke with him. I would say, you know why I have to use this triangle machine? It's because of orchestrators that write these parts that are almost impossible to play. And it was a joke. We were sort of joking about it. It was all in fun. But I think, a lot of them, I think there are certain types that basically they'll just write parts with tons of stuff going on and you sort of pick and choose what works. And, you have a little bit of leeway.
I think orchestrators are very ambitious. I think they,
that's
especially
a good way
with a smaller orchestra pits getting smaller and smaller. But
well,
also,
they're combining books too, right? So that's a big thing that's happened is they've taken a percussion book and a drum set book and sort of put them together. Yeah. So adding things like a triangle seems easy enough. But how are you going to hit it? Especially if you're playing a timpani roll or something, and then you're coming over back to the drum set, and you don't have time to get a beater. So
Here's to getting fired, killing the mood. Salud.
Is there an orchestrator that you like playing the most?
Oh gosh, I don't. Well, I did a lot of stuff for Jonathan Tunick, Sondheim's orchestrator, and I really enjoyed and appreciated his orchestrations, his percussion drum set parts.
I know he's had such a long career and he's still chugging away.
Yeah.
How was playing under him?
It was good, challenging. It could be. He had very specific ideas about what to do. So if you just read what he wrote, if you played what he wrote down, then everything was good. Because he knew he wrote for what he wanted. He wrote down. You didn't need to add anything or take anything away.
I would imagine there's a lot of conversations with percussionists of, wouldn't it be easier if I just use a mallet cat or something like that?
Sure.
But of course, purists would say it's not the same sound. What are your thoughts on using that?
About using a mallet cat?
Yeah.
Well, I've had to use electronics in certain situations. It really depends on. There really isn't a right answer. I know it's being used a lot more now because of space.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends. Each situation is unique.
Yeah.
As is, that's what's so appealing about this world is that you can have a percussionist, you could have 5 percussionists playing the same show, and they would all have it set up completely different. Maybe the timpani is on the left, maybe the timpani is on the right. Everything is going to be set up a little bit different. My wife is a musical theater actor, singer, and we kind of got to the point. Well, so we ended up having 2 kids while we were still out there, in a 550 square foot apartment. We've done what we came here to do. It'd be nice to live somewhere where we could have a dog and cats and have the kids, maybe a yard or something, or a little more space. We thought, well, we could just pretty much go wherever we wanted to go. At that point, there's a very robust musical theater scene here, which was very appealing to my wife. I was already sold on Seattle. I thought it was a really cool place to be, and this seemed like a good balance of all the things that we wanted.
Do you and your wife still perform in the area?
She does a lot. Yeah, I don't do any playing anymore, really.
Okay, so it's mostly this now.
Yeah.
Is it because this has taken over, or your interests have gone into here, or no one's been calling you up?
No, my interests, I think, I fulfilled that part of my life. I was fortunate enough to be able to do that and to develop this product and to have that experience playing shows and working on the product at the same time, right? During the show, like seeing how it fits into that musical theater world. Actually, a funny story, when I came out, not too long after we were out here, I got a call from Neil Grover, from Grover Pro Percussion, and he left me a message, and I was like, oh gosh, what's going on? At the time I had my products for sale on Steve Weiss, which is like the big percussion mail order company back east. And I thought, well, I did say in my description that I was using the same stainless steel rod that Neil was using for his beaters. Maybe he's really mad at me. He's like, take that off. And so I called him up, and he's like, hey, any interest in designing another version of your triangle machine that has more adjustments? And I thought, well, yeah, I'd love to. Fortunately, we had just moved to Seattle, which is, machining and bowing and supplies, all the stuff is here. That was a coincidence. It wasn't planned that way. And so I bought a mill. I started prototyping, studying with other machinists. Coming here was the best thing I could do for that opportunity. And then forcing me to learn how to do the machining stuff. What happened was, for that horizontal machine I mentioned before, the way I was mounting the triangle I was not happy with, based on feedback from people that have bought it. So I wanted to make a different part, but I didn't have, the materials weren't available, and I didn't have like the higher tech, maybe a CNC machine or a mill, or even like a water jet or something to be able to make these parts. And I thought I could make them with a 3D printer. So I got a 3D printer. This is what I came up with, these little guys. And so I print them on the 3D printer and then add the suspension mount to it. I tap this, and then I can use these on the machine. And this is the main reason that I got this printer. And even just for that part, it's been totally worth it. But I've been having a lot of fun making other stuff. I'm working on other parts that I sort of am revisiting all the pieces and parts of the machines and going, this is a jig for the lathe. I'm going to start making some new type of triangle beaters. We talked about that earlier before. And this is a jig that I'm making for the lathe because I'm going to be using some fluid, water, and air to keep the beaters cool while I machine them. And this is going to be the thing that lives in the lathe to keep the water. It's not finished yet. It'll have another side to it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But so that'll help me with making these other beaters. These are the bottoms of chairs, glides, right? Like you see all those metal chairs like in restaurants and stuff or outdoor cafes. They have these plastic glides that sit on the bottom so they can slide around. They don't... That's... But so I'm like, wait a second, these are awesome. And I bought a bunch and I tried them and they worked. And I was like, this is such a win for me. But so I got this arbor press And it's so satisfying, and it just finished the thing off. So easy. When I finally got this, it just pushes on, and there it is. And there it is, and it looked amazing. That brings up another thing, which is I've had so many serendipitous moments in my life with this product. This is the part I showed you before that I'm 3D printing. And so what I'm doing now is I'm finishing it up. This is part of the suspension mount for the triangle. I've already made these. This is some tubing and the plastic ties that we talked about before. And then I have this. These are just cable ties. Towards the end, I realized that I can make it so the head of the cable tie fits inside.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So it looks
that's
super
gorgeous.
slick.
Yeah.
I take one of these guys, and I'll show you. I slip it through, and it goes through that chamber, and that comes back out the front, and then I pull it tight. I get it super tight, and then I cut it off, and then that's it. I just started using it. I bought one, and then I had to figure it out.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's figure out how to do it. It's very much also in the spirit of a percussionist.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
Or maybe even all musicians. I think all musicians, myself included, have said, "Oh yeah, I can do this."
Sure.
And
I can figure it out.
Yeah, and not ever touch that. Hey, we need a bass player for Godspell. Can you do it? I'm like, yeah, sure. I've never touched a bass in my life.
But you knew that you could figure it out.
Yeah. I'm like, I play the cello, I play the guitar.
Yeah.
Let's combine the two, and we'll be fine.
Totally.
And it was probably one of the funnest shows I played, because you're just sitting back and grooving.
Oh, you were playing electric.
No, electric bass for Godspell.
Oh, yeah.
And are your clients mostly like musical theater percussionists? Or?
It started out that way, yes, but now there's a lot more. I'm getting more like schools that are buying them for their band programs. But traditionally, I think the market has always been musical theater. I do have a couple new products that kind of go into other areas, like the Block machine was geared more towards sort of Latin hand drummers playing congas and stuff. So there's more of a Latin percussionist.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten flack from purist percussionists who've said, no, you got to pick it up and ding it?
And I'm the first to admit that. It's sort of like, if you have the time, the best situation would be to pick up your triangle, pick up a beater, and play it. But the whole point of the machine was the convenience. You don't have the time. You don't want to hit it with a piece of wood if you're playing with a stick. And that was the compromise. There's always going to be a compromise. I mean, I'm getting closer to having the sound be similar to playing a triangle this way. It never will be.
What began as a Broadway percussionist's practical solution has evolved into Billy Miller's innovative line of percussion tools. From his Seattle basement workshop, Billy transforms necessity into invention, creating machines that allow musicians to achieve the impossible demands of modern orchestration without sacrificing quality. Hearing Billy's stories about his journey from the Broadway pit to instrument maker was such a fantastic experience, especially the theater anecdotes that I didn't want to end. The Miller Machine story reminds us that sometimes the most valuable musical instruments emerge from real-world performance challenges. As Billy's creations expand from theater pits to schools and beyond, they represent the perfect intersection of craftsmanship and practicality that defines the best instrument makers. Until next time, thank you for watching The Instrument Makers.